So listen, I run here based on assumptions, based on the accent, Australian. So people of the sea, you love all that stuff. Beside Bondi Beach, I don't really know anything else about Sydney and the Rock area and the Opera House and a few other things, right? So how long have you been sailing? Do you need are you a skipper? Are we talking about something that you can handle by yourself or more than that?
Yeah, look, I'm no expert. I think like anything, the more you do it, the more confident you get, the better you get. My whole life I've sailed on and off, usually smaller boats, right? But yeah, I can go on by myself. I like to take my friends, do day trips, that type of stuff. So yeah, just getting out on the water, getting more practice. Naturally, you just get better and more confident.
This is a great segue from the previous episode because the previous one was with the Ahoy. They're an MGA for boat owners, renters, and for recreational boating, sailing. That shows you my vocabulary. Just shows you how much I really understand the water and water sports. But enough about that. Let's talk about you and your company, Efficiency. And I hope it's with an A. So I hope that I pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think efficiency with an A.
Yeah. Okay. So what is it? What are you trying to solve? What are you selling?
Yeah. Yeah. Like our whole mission is to reinvent life insurance product and the buying process by
Mm-hmm.
making it completely digital, easy, so that end users in 10 minutes can go and walk away with a life insurance policy in their inbox or in their pocket, and make it easy for all the people that sell life insurance. So they can take this digital life insurance, they can put their brand on it, they can build their own user experience and make life insurance a lot more accessible for their clients. That's what we're all about.
So when people think about, they hear that, they think about, oh, yet another digital agency, right? We've seen at the beginning a few years ago, starting from
Mm-hmm.
Haven Life to all kinds of other
Mm-hmm.
digital agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you
Mm-hmm.
play?
So, we're more on the product innovation side. So we see ourselves as the supplier. We're not an agency that's building a brand that needs capital to find leads to sell life insurance. That's not our game, right? Our game is if we can innovate the best products in the marketplace, we'll make them available to the distributor. So a lot of these digital agencies, the way they get paid is they
Mm-hmm.
got a cost of acquisition. They got to find these customers, right? And then they got to earn
They
enough
need to
commission to
sell
pay for all of that.
insurance.
We Right. So we completely do not touch that, right? So all our distributors get paid that way. Our economics are built into the product because, we see ourselves as that product manufacturer. So what we do is we team up with the risk takers, the insurance companies and the reinsurers to design these products and then make them available for any type of seller. So it could be, and in fact, it could be a startup, it could be a digital agency, it could be someone that's never sold life insurance before, or it could be people that have sold life insurance for many years and just want it to be easier. So that's how we're different there. We're on the product innovation side, not in the distribution chain and dealing
Mm-hmm.
with the distribution economics.
Yeah, good. So are you just the plain API game, or do you actually license and sometimes, buy and sell risk or with that? Because basically, you all
Mm-hmm.
sort of answered it, just trying to make it a little bit clearer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not just the API game. I mean, we use the APIs to make it easy for distributors. If we have a distributor that's very tech savvy that wants to build their own user experience, that's what the API lets us do, right? We can say, hey, we're feeding you the product, everything from a quote, underwriting, application, decision, payment capture, generating policy, that whole thing, we can power you with our APIs. And if you want to build your experience, you can do that. But what we've discovered is some distribution, they also, whether it be cost, investment, expertise, competing priorities, they want us to build the user experience for them. And so we've evolved into that, and we also offer that, right? Now, when it comes to the risk, we do not participate in the risk. But I think we have a growing appetite for that, because one of the things that is very important with all our products is the underwriting, right, and getting good risk. And part of that is not just the underwriting rules, which we spend a lot of time building, but it's finding the right distribution partners, right, making sure that the right risk is coming into your ecosystem before they even get to the application, and monitoring that, right, and making sure that you got good risk coming in. So as we get more and more comfortable with that, I definitely see a growing appetite where we will want to participate in the risk.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And I can see how it can be, on one side, very, very, how can I say that? Well, it can be very optimistic, especially for the different partners as you step into becoming a distribution solution to them. Others will see it as a little bit of a threat into the operation. But again, hey, startup, and especially the beginning, it's mm-hmm.
Yeah, completely. Look, what I've noticed is the lines are being blurred across all the partners, right?
Yeah,
insurance companies, reinsurers now are getting more involved in working with distribution partners, distribution technology. The lines are being blurred, and you're right. Like we work closely with life insurance companies, but our mission is not to go and work with every life insurance company. We only need a handful of really good partners that are aligned with our vision, right? And then let us do what we do well, right? Which is the technology, the data, designing, working with them to design product. But to your point, that's not a good fit for some carriers. For some life insurance companies, they're going to say, "Hey, shouldn't we be doing that, right? Shouldn't we be investing in that?" So yeah, that's definitely a true point. Like, I think we're finding it is an ecosystem where a lot of the lines are being blurred, and it is very competitive, and it's going to continue to be so, which makes it exciting.
What's your story? How did you get into insurance?
Yeah, good question. And I think it was a bit by chance, and that's fine. Like a lot of the big turning points of my life, it's been chance. I spent most of my career in the financial services. I started in banking. I then worked for many years at American Express, doing many different roles, a great organization. And then I went to an insurance company, a big insurance company that said, "Hey, we want to sell life insurance directly to the consumer, right? Like, why don't we make life insurance easy like everything else?" And it made a lot of sense. And that was the catalyst, because I'd learned a couple of things there. One was consumers do want life insurance to be easy and digital. We could see that with the demand and the volume we were doing. But the second realization was this is going to be really hard for life insurance companies to do, right? The many different systems that needed to be manipulated to create a product, just the level of technology, the conflict within the ecosystem, right? Like at the time, a lot of the traditional agents are like, "Well, hang on, you can't go direct to consumer, right? You're trying to cut us out, right?" So there's these natural conflicts in the ecosystem there. And that was really the catalyst, because the thought was, you can't go digital by just taking a product, throwing it online and saying, "Hey, look, come online and get a quote." And then if the whole process isn't digitized, you're going to just disappoint people, right? So that was the idea for Afficiency, right? Like, let us be a product manufacturer. So it's all the things you said, the technology, but it's also more than that. It's being able to create a platform where you can create a product in months, not years, right? And that's a big thing. Typically what I saw, and what is still true today, it can take years, 2-3 years to build a life product, right? Because you have all these different disparate systems that need to be built. You got your underwriting, you get your pricing, you get your policy administration, and then once you design it, then obviously you got to file the products, and then you've got all this technology you got to sort of patch together to make it work. And by having a blank slate, we were able to create that platform. So rather than take 2-3 years, we can do products in less than 6 months. In fact, we've done one in 3 months. So it's the technology, but coupled with that know-how, that industry know-how, which I acquired and brought in a team that has that industry know-how of how to create and manufacture the product. So it's the technology with the sort of product know-how.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Afficiency is. And so that's what we provide.
So I'm just thinking, between sort of, I don't know exactly how to segment what you're doing in terms of the competition. And I'm sure that our good friends at AI Capital, who was your lead, Andy or Ricky?
Rick.
So, yeah. So,
yeah.
And I'm sure that they have their own insight, because you're talking about the innovation, and actually that your main value proposition is not just an API aggregator or a core system, but you're actually enabling insurance companies to push forward product innovation, which is critical, right? And also in parallel connect to distribution channels and other places. How is that different from from the existing digital agencies that we saw or we've seen popping up from time to time? I would say in life insurance, the first one that came up was Haven and the Ladder and a few others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you? Are you helping to compete with the new ones, helping to the carriers to catch up? Where do you find yourself?
Yeah, so it's a good question, because we are unique. It is true. Like and that's what I think our investors liked about us, right? We are unique. We're not a company that is looking for capital to become an agency, to be a brand, to acquire, go out and drive volume to our life insurance product. That is an expensive business that has got increasingly expensive as more and more participants have come. Yeah. And so we're not in that business. In some ways we do compete, right? Because yes, they do that, but they're also bringing digital product, right? That's part of their core value prop. So we do compete on that front, but we're just very much more focused on that product manufacturing front. So for example, like we've built, and also that's very much from what I've seen, a lot of these companies are very much invested in term product, right? Term life.
Yep.
Because we focus on the product manufacturing, we're more than that, right? So we've built 5 products. We're building 6 new products, and we're getting into, not just term, but the more complex products, like the wealth accumulation products. So we're building there. Long-term care, right? That's a demand, right? That's a demand that's out there. So we're working on some products in that space, and disability income and some other life insurance products. So that's where I think we're different, because we focus very much on the product design and manufacture. Yep. And it's not just online. It's like for agents too. Like that's something we've discovered. Like what's happening is agents are saying, "Hey, we want some of that product. Give it to us. Make it easy for us to sell these products." So that's and we can do that because we're not tied to a specific delivery mechanism. We're not tied to a specific brand or distributor. In fact, what we've discovered is as we design products, we want distributors to come to the table with us, right? Hey, what is your audience? Who do you sell to today? How can we make your product better? And I have to say, I think that's where the best products emerge from, is where you bring some of these distributors into the conversation and say, hey, let's build a product for you.
So I'm sure that other entrepreneurs listen to that and think about, wait, here's a chicken and egg problem here, because on one side, you need to get some sort of traction from the insurance companies that have the product if you don't generate your own product. And on the other side, you have the distributors. How did you solve that chicken and egg problem?
Yeah. Um, it's a yeah, that's a great question because look, the carriers have to have the confidence that for the carriers they have to have the confidence that we will bring them distribution, right? Like that's why they want to work with us. So we can talk about our technology and all these great products we can do, but at the end of the day, that's all great, but they want to see these products sell, right? Um, and likewise, the distribution, they're like, okay, show us the product, right? So you're right, it's a bit of a chicken egg, but it's a bit of a game, right? Like it's not a game, it's building the relationships with our first few distributors and our first carriers, right, and bringing them together, right? So introducing to the first carrier that we're working with, here are the distribution opportunities, right? Here's who's going to sell this product that we're building, and then likewise, connecting them and saying, hey, look, here's the product that we're building, and here's how it's going to be built, and here are all the features. So I don't think it was one first and then the other. It was in parallel. I'm talking about when we all got started here. It was bringing those two different stakeholders together and sort of in parallel bringing them to the finish line.
Yeah. I think about when I was running Bound, that was the biggest problem, and it always what was the traction, right? So we were pure SaaS API, too early to sell, and there was a lot of education about embedded insurance and what does it mean that we are creating this aggregator API and helping your agents to sell online, something that usually they don't care about. The focus was on
Mm-hmm.
PNC and other things. And it's always that who will get it's selling the confidence and understanding the long-term vision. And it's always interesting that chicken and egg problem that, oh, can you give me distribution? It's like, wait a second, I'll say that you're committed. Then I can go to the distribution and tell him, we have these guys. Are you on board? Until things, are in place. Yeah,
You're
that's
right,
very
and I guess that's just the entrepreneurial problem, right? Like, no problem, it's a challenge. But then you're right. Once you get
challenge. Yeah.
traction, you got example, right? You can show
Mm-hmm.
use case and say, hey, look how well this works, and then you start to create that extra momentum.
Can you share a little bit more information about partnerships that you have with carriers or distribution?
Yeah, yeah. So we got three carrier partners. We're working on a couple more. So we work with SPLI from
Mm-hmm.
Massachusetts. We work with Western and Southern Financial Group. Um, we did we our first product we built with TIAA. They had an insurance company, and that was actually the first product we built. And that was a great relationship. The issue was just after we built the product, within 2 months, I think they shut down the whole life insurance business. So that was great because it was a great lesson. It taught us two things. One, hey, we can do this. We did it. We built it. It works. But it said, okay, we can't just have we can't just have one carrier partner. We're going to have more than one. Yeah, no, and look, we have relationships with all the big reinsurers. So we it's one of these. When we build product, we don't just do it with a life insurance carrier. We like to do that with reinsurers as well. So they
How
come
does
to the
that work?
table. Yeah, so if we've got a product idea, um, in fact, one of the new products we're doing, I'm going through the same thing today. We have a product idea. We articulate the design of it, the pricing. We think what the pricing should be, what the underwriting should be, and then we talk to our reinsurance partners and say, hey, here's the product we're building. You interested? Like, we're thinking we're going to do it with this carrier or that carrier. And it's part of an organic conversation, right? To understand who's got appetite to take the risk on this type of product, right? Where do we think the pricing will end up, right? We'll have a point of view on that. We've got a strong point of view of everything else, the application and the underwriting. So, yeah, we bring them into the equation because often, look, these are new products. So often the life insurance company would like a risk partner when they go and do
Mm-hmm.
these products with us. And that's what the insurers do. And they've got a lot of great experience and they're very eager to see the industry grow.
Yep.
And their business is mortality. So they're very happy to partner up to take more risk on their books.
I always find that the role of the reinsurer interesting because even early on, they were pushing innovation in the industry. They started with the bigger CVCs compared to anyone else, pushing MGAs, MGUs, something that I was expecting actually the carriers looking at how can we build new distribution channels. And it was, you know, actually the reinsurance. I'm thinking now on Surify and Hanover Re that they put in the first check and, making that push in order to have innovation and increase the market, increasing the pie because the carriers, I don't know, couldn't make it or too slow even to the reinsurer. And it's always fascinating that the reinsurers have those, between the funds and innovation that let's call it, skip a few levels down in the distribution to push innovation forward. It's very cool.
Yeah, no, it
There
is
is,
now completely, and I see that, I feel that, and their trick is they also have their client at the end of the day are the carriers, so they're always they have to, like, that's the other ingredient there. I don't, in the life space at least, they definitely don't want to, they want to be cognizant of that too. So that's why it's sort of like a three-way partnership. I find, it's a reinsurer, but it's also, making sure the carrier's an equal voice in that conversation.
now I'm going back to the products, if you don't mind, because I'm sure someone is like sitting at the edge of their seat, one of the few listeners or watchers. It's such a different audience. I'm going like, wait. They're selling whole life insurance online. What's going on with the physical? How do they take my blood through the screen? What's going on? How is that how is that happening?
Yeah, so all the underwriting is done digitally and instantly. So we pull in we get the consent of the consumer, just like a traditional life insurance product. But we pull all that evidence in instantly and electronically, right? So prescription history, motor vehicle, risk scores, medical insurance bureau. We will. So that's what we pull in. So we pull that data in, interpret it, and make an underwriting decision, right? The only thing we don't do is two things: have someone come and take your blood, right? Or go and pull the records from your doctor, right? And both those things take time, right? So if you're pulling medical records, you got to contact the doctor and say, send me your medical records. So we do all of those things except those two. And with now that a lot of the advancements over the last few years means that a lot of that stuff is digital, it is instant, and the coverage of all the people for which you can gather that information is expanded greatly. So that's how we do the underwriting. I will also say new tools are coming online all the time. So the gap between, let's say, traditionally, if you did instant, you'd pay a lot more, right? Because there's extra risk. You don't have all the protections of those other things. That gap has come down and down and down, and I think we're bringing it, pretty much in line with the full underwriting. So that's what we do there. We take all that information instantly, make a decision, and our underwriting engine is very much focused on looking at what's out there and always bringing in the new tools as they emerge.
I mean, as you described that, in my mind, I'm like trying to figure out, you need a relationship with Epic or another solution to get those EHRs, and then somehow from those electronic health records, figure out what is the real health status of that patient after all the HIPAA and consent, because it needs to go through the patient itself that it will approve, and that will be the handshake and all that stuff. And then I already said that the AI that will figure out, it's like, okay, what I'm reading here may be a problem or not a problem, and the underwriting that will be with that. It's are you doing it, or is that something for another startup?
No, well, there are startups focused on very specific pieces of data. So on the EH, there's plenty there. There's a couple that I'm looking at very closely, and there are others players out there that have solved it, right? Like there are a couple of players that have solved the prescription history stuff, right? So we use them. Um, there's a couple that do risk scores. We use one of those. So there are providers there, and I'd say we're on the medical records. We're not there yet, but I do expect that we'll be there soon, and it will be some of these new companies that are providing that solution. And for us, that's an input. That's an input into our engine. One of several inputs into doing the underwriting.
And that's
so my expectation is that it's going to get stronger and stronger in terms of what we can bring in an instant underwriting environment.
In my humble opinion, that's the right direction. Otherwise, you will start to have, we're always talking about what's the MVP and build from there. And well, you are past your MVP a while ago, but starting to add those capacities of working with the medical records and ciphering them and understanding what and generating your own score, it's a different company. It's a different structure, different valuation. It's, a specialty AI company for that specific thing, which is great because you are the API, the innovation, the sort of core system that's enabling all that stuff to happen.
Yeah, completely. And also we can, and we already do a bit of this, use the data, the AI upfront to help the distributor, right? Like to help them filter, score their leads, right? Like who is a good candidate for this product, right? Without going and doing the full underwriting, right? By giving them some insight into that adds value too, right? It helps us attract better risk and helps our distributors better filter the population they're talking to.
So we are reaching the 30 minutes mark. So allow me to ask you the last two questions. The first one, of course, what are the plans for the future?
To grow the team. We've had some great success. Our business model is an efficient one, like I mentioned. By the time we get to the end of the year, we're actually going to be operationally profitable.
Wow, that's impressive.
But we've got a big agenda. Yeah. We're selling a lot of policies are coming through our system. We have our pipeline is full of potential new distributors. Our pipeline is full of new products. So it's growing the team to support all of this. It's one of these things where I think the demand for what we're doing is there. We're starting to run out of capacity. So it's all about growing the team and honestly building a culture where we sort of, we don't keep preserving the beauty of a startup, right? The ability to move quickly, make decisions quickly. So it's really about building a high context, low control culture where we bring the right people in, empower them to make decisions and grow. That's focus number one right now for us.
Cool. Any examples? Who you're looking to hire? Any specific openings?
Yeah, I mean, actually, we just spent the last 4 months aggressively hiring. So I've just filled up a lot of these positions. Our chief financial officer started last week. Got a chief revenue officer that started a few weeks before that. We're building our technology team, data science team. I think on the marketing side, is where we really got to build that out. And like I said, we're not marketing directly to consumers, but it's a B2B sale, right? So we're gonna grow that capacity, get the word out, right, of what we do, so that people know to come talk to us. So that's one area I think we probably need a bit more investment in.
So I assume that we're going to see you in Vegas at ITC or other conferences as you start to make your brand a little bit more familiar, if it's brand placement or just brand awareness. Hey, people, by the way, Mark is online, if you haven't known. So a little bit of brand. A little bit of brand awareness. Okay. Last question that I ask everyone. Can you give us a recommendation? It can be a book, a show, some sort of a life hack, whatever you think that people should know about.
I would say a life hack. Or show. I'll tell you what, I haven't had a chance to read for pleasure in a while. But maybe a life hack is something I've been thinking about, right? And I've been thinking about my journey and what I've learned, right? And what's some good advice. Here's something I've been reflecting on. I think what I've learned is talk less and listen more is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I know as an entrepreneur, you got to be talking, you got to be selling, like selling your vision, your idea, etc. But through this journey, what I've learned, if you just listen, there's so much you can learn about listening. And if you're in the solution business, which we are, right, trying to solve problems, really being an awesome listener makes a big difference. So that's something that with age, I think I appreciate more and more.
I will add, so I'm now in New York, as you can see, the second episode that I'm recording from this lovely room. Check out the Beetlejuice. So the Broadway Beetlejuice, fantastic. But make sure that you see the movie before, because there are so many, references to the movie. And because they took it a little bit outside of the original story, and they did all kinds of switcheroos, it's, getting a good memory refresh before you see the show gives you like an extra, kind of, and stuff like that. Okay, fantastic. Mark, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. It's great having you.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation. It's been great talking to you.